It's been emphasized the importance of your thought here on Earth in the past. Now it has come to the time of the heart. I'm sure it's fun and exciting to see UFO, but frankly it doesn't really matter. It's not about seeing them, right, Akiko? You don't really care if you see UFO, right? I've never seen it before.
The experience of the oneness you feel and sense is like you hold all the emotions, and your inner sense goes even beyond everything.
The importance is integrating in your inside, so to speak, going out of the frame. We need to push forward the people who has experienced and send out the message. Okay, hi hello there. Welcome to Starseed channel. This is Yoshi. This is Akiko. Hello. Nice to see you. Okay, so today, guess what? There are many starseeds spread in the world, and today we invited a starseed who lives in France. We'd like to introduce his this person who wrote this book called The Door of Oneness. In this book, he saw UFO when he was 16 and started interaction with an alien. This is Mr. Julien. Wow. So this experience called oneness, sort of experience of awakening, something feels good. And he described this experience very well, and I enjoyed reading. I actually read twice. And this is the Mr. Julien, who is going to appear soon in this channel. So we're connected to Julien in France.
Hello.
Okay. Hello, Julien.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Julien.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us. So Julien, this is your first time to meet you this time, but I'm so impressed how good you speak Japanese. How come you can speak that well?
My Japanese need to improve more, but thank you very much. Well, the reason is that I wanted to learn Japanese for my hobby. So I started to learn Japanese when I was 14 years old, and I met a Japanese person for the first time. The same year I saw UFO when I was 16, and we decided to teach our languages to each other. Since then, I started to speak Japanese vaguely, little by little.
Well, your Japanese beyond the level of roughly.
Oh no, you're so kind.
You speak more than Japanese. So this is amazing that this book Julien wrote by himself in Japanese. Did you write it by yourself?
Yes, I did, yes. Not in French, but in Japanese.
Entirely? You wrote in Japanese? I'm impressed. Great. Wow.
I was not sure if I was be able to begin to write this book at that time. I felt like that for a long time. Well, talking about this book, I felt strongly that I should write this book in French. And many Japanese people asked me, why did you publish this book not in France but in Japan?
Yes.
In fact, this is a rather strange story. I got message to make contact with my friend in Japan and talk about this in Japan during the communication with alien after I saw UFO. During the interaction with alien, I was told the same things over and over during the communication, not only once or twice, but 3 and 4 times. At that time, I thought it would be difficult to talk about UFO and alien in French. And it would be even more difficult to talk about it in Japanese. So I hesitated. Then I sensed strongly that they rather had a connection with Japan. And the reason I felt so was that I constantly met this person, Ms. Naoko Mitsuda. She owns a company called Temple Beautiful. We had a mutual friend and he introduced her to me. I was feeling a bit lonely because there were nobody I could speak about spirituality in France, although I wanted to. So I was introduced to her. As we got comfortable to each other, I brought out the spiritual subject and we started to talk about it in Japanese. Then I got the message from Alien suddenly. I mean, out of the blue, you've got to tell her you saw UFO clearly. What? But it's not that simple. Yes, it was not simple.
Person, right?
Subject to begin with, and it was even more challenging to say it in Japanese, so I had to tell myself to wait. I was 18, 19 years old. No, maybe I was 20. Yes, I was 23 years old actually. They sent me the same messages over and over. Then I was wondering why I have to tell Miss Naoko Mitsuda about my experience, and so I thought I would email her sometime. And naturally I had to email her in Japanese. It took me so long to write an email in Japanese at that time. So I thought I would write in sometimes later. I had many other priorities and I thought I'd take care of them first. So I was putting it off.
I see.
And I was getting a lot of pressure from universe. So I thought I couldn't put it off any longer. I thought I would at least start writing an email to her. So the very first time I talked about this subject was not in French but Japanese.
How old were you then? And
I was
how
23.
Old are you now? 30.
I'm 39 now.
So it was quite a while ago. So why there's a time gap between that and then? Yes.
The reason is, let's see, it was 2009 when I talked about UFO in Japan. I was 29 in 2009. I lived in Taiwan temporarily at that time. I lived there for my job. My friend happened to come to visit me in Taiwan. So we thought we may as well go visit Japan too. And then when I started to make a plan, again the alien sent me a message and said, why don't you disclose about UFO when you go to Japan? I was wondering, what do they mean by disclosure? I thought, here they goes again. They said make contact with Naoko Mitsuda. Well, I will. And I made contact with her and asked, could I announce this type of subject? She said, yes, I think you can. Impressive, I thought. So we made a plan to make an announcement titled as Panel Talk by Mysterious French Men. Or I shall say Talkfest. Was scheduled by Naoko. She was little concerned that if anyone would come to this Talkfest, but once it was on the schedule, surprisingly about 80 people registered to attend the panel talk. So we thought it would be better if we set up the talk twice rather than just once. And that was the very first time I spoke about UFO and talked about aliens in front of people in Japanese.
Well, so I'm not sure if you call this spirituality in France, but would this spiritually like subject, how can I say, Starseed or
Yes.
Universal Originated Soul. Is this kind of subject be discussed in France a lot, or are many other people who talks about it?
So, well, first of all, we usually don't talk about religions in public. It is sort of taboo, or I would say it's common sense not to talk about religion in public. And if it is not religion, the spiritual talk, just how shall I say?
Would they consider spirituality and religion are the same thing?
Spirituality rather be easily suspected that it may be a cult.
Right.
Therefore, I want to talk about spirituality, but people would react like, what, why, or are you into cult? They suspect like that right away.
So that means, so as I hear you, when you compare between Japan and France, France is more of a Christianity. I mean, they have the strict tradition of the Christianity, and it's not really easy to talk about it in France. And Japan is easier to
much easier.
That's interesting information. That was unexpected.
Yes, from the point of French view, I always think it is
how about the
easier
other
to speak about
country
it
in
in
Europe
Japan.
outside France? Are they similar?
In Europe, other than France, let's see the nearest one, Germany. I think it is much easier to talk about it in Germany.
It depends on the country.
I see.
It's easier there. Yes, so I figure that many Latin countries are still constructed by Catholic religion, so those countries are affected by it. And makes difficult to talk about the spirituality.
But I know they can't talk about in France, but how many people know about it? I mean, people who knows about spirituality.
Well, I think there are many people, but those people, they are like me. They don't know who to talk to, and they are anxious if they can feel safe to talk about it. Yeah, that's what I think. They probably think it's best not to talk about it.
You think?
Well, first, when they find out who they can talk to, what would they do? I think they will be happy to have one or two people to share their stories, and let's see what would be next, because it would be a secret talk, wouldn't
so
it?
Suspicious. Really? Wow, they're so behind. What I thought was people in France, for example, they love Japanese cultures and anime, and I organize Japanese Art Business Association, and every year I go to France for a Japanese expo in Japan, in France, and there's many people who love Japanese art and culture lovers. 200,000 people gathered for the expo. And when I see that from perspective, including spirituality, I think French people have a much insight of spirituality in them, and they have energy accumulated inside of them, and they would like to have more information about Japan, including spirituality and universal perspectives.
Yes, I agree. From my French point of view, looking at very far Japanese culture, there are many spiritual parts in it. But I think we can accept them easily because it is Japanese culture.
Right.
And there's another story. I temporarily lived in Taiwan in 2009, and I returned to France. Then I was getting ready to start working in France. I thought I needed to disclose about UFO in France after I did the talk in Japan for the first time. So I joined UFO Association as a member.
And is the UFO Association? Is that
Yes,
in
there is a
France?
group called UFO Association.
UFO Association. Right. Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, there's one in France. I joined the one. It's in northern France.
UFO Association.
Combines Paris, northern France,
Oh, that's
and
great.
Belgium. Yes, that's the association. So I joined the group and I shared about my UFO experience. And as I was talking further ahead, then someone said, it's okay to talk about sighting UFO, but other than that, would you mind not talking about it? I asked, what do you mean by that? It would be awkward to talk about something that you can't see or you can't touch. You can't prove it actually happened or not. So please keep that to yourself. What? I said. I wonder what that means. The person said, when it comes to the subject of spirituality, people react and take back. You should keep that talk to yourself, because each individuals are different. So I could only talk about sighting UFO there.
Oh, I was thinking. So Julien is saying in this book that at the end, in the contact with UFO really exists, but your inner integration and going beyond the frames.
Yes.
The importance of those things he mentions, but also we value those things, Akiko and me as well. But it would be nice to see UFO. It would be fun, but it's not only about that. It's not that you want to just see UFO. Never seen it, not really. But I don't really care. It doesn't really matter for me. But most important thing is that the perspective of beyond the frame of and the perspective of the universe and how the new way of living. That's what we're doing. And I think it's amazing Julien is doing the same thing alone in France, where there's very few people like him. So very close to the main point. He's taking action that we also trying to do. So what do you think regarding this topic, Julien? I mean, is that what you want to do, right? You're not just want to see UFO and exchanging the information about these. You want to go ahead of that, right?
As you said earlier, it's not important if you see UFO or not. I really don't care about it. I think you don't have to see it. It's way more fun and exciting to know what kind of being in the universe through experiencing their oneness.
Interesting.
I'm talking about spirituality.
That's true.
Yes.
And excuse me. That's great. And he writes about his experience about oneness in this book.
Yes.
How he wrote his experience was really feels good, like almost unable to stay standing.
Yes. Wow. What I mean by feeling good is like beyond physical experience. It's just feeling good. It goes beyond that estimation. If you describe using what is it like? If I describe that with words, well, that's the most difficult thing. If I say in words, I was troubled to express it in words when I had first oneness experience. It was difficult to explain, even in French. I encountered different supernatural phenomenon like seeing UFO. I was also writing about my communication with alien on my diary, because how would I say, I wanted to come back to it and confirm that I really experienced it. But when I had my first oneness experience, I wondered how shall I write about it in my diary, because I didn't know where to start. I was so confused. I didn't know where was the end and where was the beginning, because everything was happening at once. What I meant is that the time didn't exist at that moment. So at first I began to realize that time simply doesn't exist. Then I was thinking, how should I explain that? And feeling wise, it is beyond the level of feeling which I have ever experienced before. The reason is that emotion is like happiness, sadness, and something like that.
I see.
The feeling or sensation you experience at the oneness is like you're holding the whole emotions, and it goes even overshoot that the sensation you get when you experience the oneness.
So
yes,
I know not everyone experienced the oneness, but what do you think you had the experience the oneness or seeing UFO? Why did you think you were going through your experiences?
I was wondering about that at the beginning. Maybe the alien side is the one causing all of this. Using their power somehow, I wonder if they control the earth and makes us experience them. And now I look back and observe overall my journey since the moment I sighted UFO for me first time and till now. I've always questioned myself. The being alive is not just this. I've always known that there is a reality which is beyond ordinary. I've always had an intention that I wanted to see it. So we live on Earth as a human being now. And I'm sure there's another living entities which live on another planets like us.
Yes, indeed.
I've always wanted to make contact and talk to them since I was a little child.
Ah, you did. Oh,
yes.
Definitely you are a seed.
That's what I've always wanted.
You had the sense of it.
So I was hoping to see UFO someday, but all the French published books which related to UFO, they were all American books which all talks about short gray's kidnapping incidents. All books were like that. So what would happen to me if I see it was to get kidnapped. I was a bit scared by imagining that. I'd rather not to have an experience like that.
Interesting.
Yes.
So I understand you were making contact with the UFO and aliens. But did you know which planet they were from? Do you know those information?
As far as I understand, it is not so important anymore where I come from or where you come from. All members came from different places. And they were acting as groups. So they were not from one certain planet. They are a group of aliens who gathered from different planets for one purpose. That's what I understood.
So about the one purpose, for instance, we are doing activity of Starseed in Japan. I see that we came from different planets at this timing here at the Earth. We gathered to do something together. And I think probably will show a new way of living or new perspective of the world or dimensional. There's a oneness ahead of it. This way of living, multi-dimensional, like you said earlier, that goes beyond dimension and time. And probably there won't be dividing line between everyone else. I think it will be similar to the oneness. And I think it will lead this to the place where the beyond the frame. And I think we're going to make it. How do you feel in that sense, Julien? Do you feel like that's the reason that you published your book and those aliens have been making contact with you? Are they all doing? What do you think?
Yes, I agree.
Oh, you do.
They come here for spiritual purpose. Well, actually, they don't come here. Actually, they have been with us on our side for the whole this time. Only now they started to make movements just near us. But their purpose is spirituality. And you said they're acting so many different things to help us so we can live more suitable as universal beings. They are making contact with many different people. I try to tell about this to whoever are able to listen with open mind before I publish the book Doorway to Oneness. What I meant as I talked to many people is that I try to talk to people in France and talk to people who came from different countries. There was one person who was from Brazil, and this Brazil man happened to be in Paris for traveling when I saw him for the first time. My friend set up the meeting. Well, I mentioned about this in my book as well. His vibration, what shall I say, there is a wave, and what I sensed from his vibration, that this person may have seen UFO, and also he has experience to communicate with alien. That was what I sensed from him. So I thought it was someone interesting.
Amazing.
But at the same time, I promised myself that I would never start the conversation about UFO. And he started to talk about it straight away. I thought, oh, he started to talk about UFO. He started this conversation, then I should share my experience too. And so he told me that he sure had seen UFO before, but he started to feel anxious about it. How our life on Earth would be affected by that in the future. After seeing UFO twice, he was so worried, so he decided to cut off the contact. Like break off their friendship. He decided to close his door to aliens. While he was telling me the story, I was receiving a message at the same time. Or maybe more like an inspiration, or let's say pressure from alien, from space. It came to me and it said to me, please carry on the conversation with him. Oh, okay, I shall continue, but he just told me he'd close his door. So I tried to open the door and carried on our conversation. And his Brazilian friend said, I told you I never want to talk about it. Oh, I thought you don't have to be so harsh. And I left that it is such a challenge how to react after seeing UFO. And having experience to interact with alien, it stuck to me again how challenging to deal with after that kind of experience. So he's one of an example. I've met many more people who has the same experience. They all had biggest question, what would they do with the experience? They all said, what should I do in my ordinary life after what I've seen?
Do many people see UFO? Are there many people who have seen UFO in outside Japan?
Yeah, I think there are many. Many people have
they don't know what to
sighted
do
UFO.
after they've seen it.
Yes, right. My mother told me about seeing UFO recently.
Wow.
She said, I might have seen UFO. What do you mean? I asked her. She saw UFO, but she didn't realize what it was. She saw how pretty it was, whatever it was.
But the shape, Yoshi, isn't it right? The people only, especially in foreign countries. So people only believe in what they can see, so that's the reason why they show something in a shape. But in Japan, people know about spirituality, so they can understand without seeing the shape.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
So, Julien, and now I'd like to ask you how you observe Japanese spirituality or their ability. What do you think about it?
Well, yes, when I talk about UFO in France, well, I have to explain reluctantly about wave and something invisible, and also about the dimension. The problem is to explain it in French. There is a possibility that people would be so confused if I don't choose the right words. The person might say, I'm not sure about what he was saying. They would have doubt. But in Japan, when I talk about UFO to Japanese people, they understand it so smoothly. I think the reason they understand so easily is because of the culture to express senses and feelings. So they just get it. They get it very easily. I'm always so impressed. In France, it's more like feelings are considered more like emotions. So we de-emphasize that head is correct. So they think only using their head. And in Japan, well, it depends on people. There are many people who think using their heads, but Japanese culture values senses at the same time.
It's struggling, isn't it?
Yes, so the information would flow from Japan.
I see.
Yes, from Japan,
so,
yes.
Well then, if we start dispatch this kind of information from Japan to other countries, France, of course, will there be a demand, or are there people who are craving for this kind of information, you think, Julien?
Well, as a matter of fact, it's interesting that I'm planning to have a talk session at UFO Association in France in February. So I'm planning to talk about UFO there.
Or about Japan too?
Yes, about Japan. And I told a member of UFO Association that I published a book about it in Japan. And they wanted to hear about why I published my book, not in France, but Japan. I'll talk about it in February.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear that. Awesome. Well, we've come close to the end. Julien, you are planning to have Bourgogne? You said earlier. Workshop, yes. Yes, I will. I'm originally from Bourgogne, France. I was born in southern Bourgogne and raised by Yes. I'm originally from Bourgogne, France. I was born in southern Bourgogne and raised by my entire life there. I've seen UFO twice, and it was in Bourgogne both the time. So I've been thinking that there must be some special energy there. That's what I've been thinking for a long time. So I thought I would plan to have this retreat workshop last year, and this workshop is not to see UFO but for us to approach to be spiritual oneness. And I'll collaborate with my mutual friend. Okay, got it.
And our goal of this workshop is to improve our spirituality and go to the next level.
I see. Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
This is our first time to invite a Starseed from another country. Interesting. First time to talk like this. It was the first time. Yes, it is. And Akiko, I think there's some kind of meaning to this meeting. Julien and I are here now, coincidentally heard Julien's story and read a book and having this conversation. Akiko-san, is there any universal meaning for us to gather here this time and recording this video? Can we get any message about that now? So I'll channel from the universe now. Well, Julien, this time Julien is the first foreign starseed other than Japanese. Our very first foreign starseed guest. He is with us today because he understands the essential quality of the universe. The struggle he's been feeling, he had struggled in life. These things are ordinary in Japan. I mean, many things are ordinary to us. However, it is totally different way of thinking. For instance, country, let's say France, they think very different way, right? Head. So the thought is emphasized and put importance in the earth in the past, but not the time has come to treasure our heart, and we can let everyone know. So for the purpose of this, to Julien to let everyone know about this, and it's directly connected to the universe. So our heart is connected directly to a higher self, and we now need to shift from the age of the head towards the age of the heart, which already have begun, but so many people hasn't realized it. So as a universe, they're pushing Julien and us forward and send out those messages out to the world. And this is why we're having this time. Yes, thank you very much. This is the first time to meet and speak with Julien. But it's strange how I feel that like we know each other. Yeah, it feels comfortable with him. I wonder why. It's very comfortable.
Thank you very much.
I feel like we're family. Yes, like a family indeed. I wonder what planet you're from. Yes, I'm curious. I felt from the beginning. We're all having the feeling of closeness, aren't we, Julien? Yes, indeed. Does everyone say that about you?
Well, yes, I get that very often.
I thought so.
Well, ever since I had experienced oneness, my way of thinking has changed. Other people are not different from me. Well, that's my basic way of thinking.
I see. So, like, I'm you and you
yes,
are
the
me.
person I am talking right now is already connecting to me. Yes, one being. We have become
so
one.
we're feeling that, aren't we? We're sensing that. I see.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, at the end, this channel, as a conclusion, what I think so great is I've been to France several times before, but I didn't really knew about the country. When I come to the subject to talk about this spiritual essential talk, I realized Japan is quite extremely free country compared to other countries.
True.
For that reason, I think we need to spread our information about a new way of life. Before we end, I'd like to ask Julien how we should do in order to have oneness in the world. Yes, please.
Yes, sure.
Just one last thing.
I think we should share about this spiritual talk with as many as people as possible. The reason is that whereas a one way of approaching, way of living is also a way of approaching to be ever closer to oneness. I was troubled once before. I wasn't sure what to do after I experienced oneness. there was time I thought it's no use to have oneness because I couldn't talk to anyone about it. I thought it was a waste. And then they were sending me message saying, you are already useful enough just being yourself.
Yes, that's so true.
Then I thought, well, still, it's a waste. I think the power of vibration itself, which comes out from a being, is working too.
Sharing.
And another thing is, yes, sharing. I thought I must share always.
Yes, right.
Yes. Yes, that's what I think.
Yes, understood. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, at the end, on this broadcast, we have custom saying "dewa dewa" in Japanese, which means goodbye, with waving your hands. No, will you do it with us, Julien? I want to spread this culture. It doesn't make sense. So funny. Okay. Well, everyone, we present you having Julien as Starseed channel. Thank you very much. So we'll see you next time. Dewa dewa, please. Dewa dewa. Here we go. Dewa dewa.
Dewa dewa.
That's nice. Dewa dewa dewa. One more time. One more. Dewa dewa. Dewa dewa.
Dewa dewa.
I got feeling you make us laugh again. Okay, we're finished now. Thank you very much. Oh, love it. So fun.
Thank you very much.
What's this?